A good ball played in for Tony Morley. Oh, he missed it! It is! Peekaboo! Villa in the lead!
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the Villa Forever podcast. I am your host, Chad Williams. Please make sure to subscribe and give this video the thumbs up. And you can follow me on audio platforms as well. I'm joined by special guest Aaron Thornton, who is the host of the Football Brief, and we have Baptiste Reynaud, who is from the Classique French football podcast, which is dedicated to French football history as well. Also, he's a contributor on Le Bout Dieu, which is Ligue 1's official French English speaking podcast. And this week, there's no weekly recap because we've got Champions League action tomorrow. We've got a special match preview episode. This is the match preview, the pre-match talk show, Monaco versus Aston Villa. After showing resilience and fight against Arsenal, which was a 4-goal thriller at the Emirates Stadium, and this 2-2 draw, will give Villa a lot of confidence, and it's a crucial point which keeps us in the top 7 in the Premier League table as well. We go to Monaco in another important Champions League game, and with a win, it'll bring us another step closer to ultimately going through to the knockout stages. Tuesday night, it's a 5:45 p.m. kickoff. Please stand by for the show today. How are we?
Very good. Thanks, Chad. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here as always.
Great to have you on again. Welcome to the show, Baptiste.
Hi, Chad. Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to talk about Monaco and Aston Villa today.
Great to meet you.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
So we're going to talk about Champions League action. Before we talk about Champions League, we'll talk about the Arsenal game first. So, what a comeback on Saturday evening. So, Aaron, I'll ask you, so what was your verdict for the Arsenal game?
My verdict from the Arsenal game is that it felt like a bit of a win, didn't it? It felt more like a win, I think, because of the manner that we came back. 2-0 down at the Emirates is no easy feat, and I think it was a real good test of the characters that we've got in our squad, and I think it's only going to hold them in good stead going forward. I don't think we played particularly bad. I don't think we were at our best, but I think if we weren't at our best and we still managed to come out with a 2-2 draw, then I was very happy. And I think, like you just said in the preview, that I think going into this game against Monaco, it gives us a real sense of belief and confidence going into the match. So yeah, I was very happy with it overall, and I was actually a bit gutted that we didn't get the win in the end. I thought we were going to get a third at one point, but it wasn't to be. So yeah,
I enjoyed seeing the Arsenal fans' faces at the end of the game when that goal got disallowed. I enjoyed seeing that. Yeah.
I don't know if you see like Arsenal fans, sometimes some of their like fan cams and their fan channels, but the meltdowns they have is gold. So it was it's always good to see that as well.
What I like is in that game as well, we showed so much character. It's not easy going to the Emirates being 2-0 down. And in the second half, Emery's team talk work. We gave the real reaction. And we showed real tenacity getting back into that game. We showed that resilience.
Yeah, we did. I think with Emery as well, which is one of the things that we've spoken about previously, is that if something's not quite right, he'll make that change. And I think at half time to take off Maatsen, who I from an attacking point of view, I thought he was a threat, but defensively, I think he was found wanting sometimes. So I think for Emery to identify that, and then he brought on Luca Dean at half time. Who made a real difference, and his crossing of the ball all season.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's been incredible. So I think that's what I love about Emery. He's sort of in-game management, and it proved to be the deciding factor, I think, against Arsenal. So very happy with Luca Dean. I mean, I have been all season. I think he's been arguably our best player, or most consistent player of the season. And I guess Baptiste, from a French point of view, it's quite nice to see him sort of back amongst the French national team and whatnot. But I thought our fullback Matty Cash and Luca Dean played very well, and credit to Emery for making that change.
Do you agree with Luca Dean? He was on the plate for you in tournaments.
Oh, yeah, it would be beautiful, that ball.
Not his bending though. It bends in. Like David Beckham, that sort of cross.
There's just no nonsense, is there? I think a lot of teams now, you sometimes see teams get into those crossing positions and then they turn back. But what I love about Luca Dean, it's straight away whip that ball in, like no messing around, get that ball, look up, bang, and it's just like proper old school, which sounds a bit weird, but I think nowadays with the tactics and the way football's played, we were seeing like less crosses, so it's nice to see him just whipping balls in, and that header. Oof.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So.
So Baptiste, what did you make of that game, Baptiste?
I think I'll echo a lot of what's been said. Really, I think it's always impressive for anyone in the Premier League to come back from 2-0 down away from home, let alone at the Emirates, where it's particularly difficult. And Arsenal, I know they've struggled a little bit more recently, but they're still towards the top of the table. So I think it's just a symbol of what Emery's brought to the club since he's arrived. He was often decried and mocked for his time at Arsenal, of all clubs, and in France in a way at PSG, where he kind of failed to reach the lofty standards that are imposed on any manager there. But what he's brought at Aston Villa, I think, is there's just that belief, and I find that really impressive. Is they have a plan, they go there, they try and be on the front foot, and as Aaron said, when things don't work out and he feels like he needs to make a change, he makes them, and he's smart. And evidently, his players clearly play for him. They enjoy playing for him. I think you can see there's a lot of fun going through the side. I think that's important. Players express themselves, and there's improvements. There are improvements everywhere, because I think Luca Dean, I've always liked Luca Dean. I followed him obviously when he started in France. Very talented player, incredible going forward for a fullback or a wing back, depending on how you want to play him. But he's often been accused for long parts of his career of failing in his defensive duties, and I feel like that sort of debate has kind of gone out of the window now. He's just more consistent, he's solid, and he has a real value add going forward that not many fullbacks in the Premier League, in my mind, have in terms of the quality of his left foot. So I think it's a great performance. It's good for Villa to have that momentum. It could have been a bit of a downer prior to the Champions League, and it like Aaron said, it felt like a win. It was certainly way better than a defeat, that's for sure. And I think they'll be gaining a lot of confidence from that, actually.
And what I like about Luca Dean, he always gives 110%. He's always trying. He's very consistent. And you think he's played for some big clubs. Did he play, was it PSG? Was it Barcelona, I think?
Barcelona,
Yeah. He was
Was it
PSG, Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
I always knew we had the quality. He's
Mm.
actually been at Aston Villa now for 3 years,
Right. Already.
which is amazing.
I think it shows a
Well,
lot of his character as well. Sorry, Chad. Because I know Emery's brought in, 2 left backs since he's come in. Alex Moreno, who's now on loan at Nottingham Forest.
Mm.
Luca Dean, he couldn't get in the squad because of Luca Dean, and because I think it shows the sort of personality he's got. Like, I know he's had offers that have come in as well where he could have easily gone, but he wanted to stay and wanted to fight for his place. And it makes a big difference to a fan base when you know there's a player there who genuinely wants to play for your club, and he gives. I know the old cliche, but he genuinely gives 110% every time. And I think just credit to him and for just really sort of sort of adapting and progressing and getting even better so late on in his career. He didn't just stand still and think, okay, I've had a decent career, I'm gonna, but he's kept pushing on. So
I mean, Dinya as well. He's a Champions League player as well. He's not that quality player. He's a sort of player, a solid squad player that you need in your team.
Yeah. I think credit to Unai Emery as well. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got to keep your players believing that when competition comes in, it's not simply meant to replace you, it's meant to make you better. Both for the incoming player and the player who's already there, the incumbent. And I think everyone seems to have accepted their role, and the fact that in some games he's not going to start because Matsson's been good and it might be the right fit for that type of game. And I think that shows really shrewd management, really, when everybody is given when they come in, and whether they start or not, and they don't hold any grudges clearly about starting or not starting. So there's a really healthy environment from the outside looking in at Aston Villa, and that's down to really good management and smart players.
Yeah.
I mean, Emery, he gets the best out of players, and he develops them.
Yeah.
So going back to the game, I think in the first half there's constant corners. I think the first half, we struggled. But in the second half, we were the better team, I thought. We were the stronger team as well. And also, I think we couldn't deal with them on the flank Trossard. It was a real problem in the first half. I think Ian Matson had a good chance. But I still think, though, I think Dinya defends better. I think Matson's good at getting forward. And Dinya gives his defensive solidity as well.
Yeah. I thought second half was again, much better from a Villa point of view. I agree with you there, Chad. I think you're spot on with the defensive changes. I also thought as well. I know Onana came off and Lamar Bogard came on. I thought he was great. So quick shout out to him.
I agree.
He really slotted in well, and I was a bit bemused when I saw his name come up on the board to come on at first, and then I was like, okay, see what happens, and I was pleasantly surprised. I have to really agree with you as well, though, Chad. I actually text my friend back in the UK about Trossard, because I thought, other than the assist that Matty Cash got, I thought Trossard gave him a torrid time all game. Matty Cash.
Trossard.
Yeah, I don't think Cash played badly. I don't think he played badly. I just think Trossard was that good. He couldn't contain him, and he was a threat all game. Yeah, he was really good. So he was my standout man for Arsenal. I think he was making things happen, and he should have got the winner in the last minute as well, shouldn't he? He should have scored the winner.
Well, Trossard, in Arsenal, he's probably their best finisher in their team.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah. He's very good.
And also, I think wonderful ball, the Dinya, what you said earlier. I have to also give a lot of credit to Yuri Tielemans. He got himself to go in great positions. And what I love about his commitment as well. He's very committed. I just love the way how on the pitch he sprays the ball everywhere. I even liked him in his Leicester days.
Yeah.
I've always rated Yuri Tielemans.
Hmm.
And even the Belgian fans, I love him as well.
Yeah, he's always been good. It's just finding the right partners, I think, for Tielemans and finding him the right kind of position on the pitch to express himself. That's why I've always, again, coming back to Liga in a way for me, but that was why I've always liked Boubacar Kamara.
Mm.
I think he's just a
Well,
very
Gerard
smart.
from Marseille.
He's just a very smart player. He just doesn't, he's got his zone. He plays. He's efficient. He's not ruffled. He has his ups and downs, and I think he's had to come back from long-term injury that hasn't helped. But when he's on a good day, I think Kamara is just one of those 7 out of 10s kind of players in your side who does a lot of the unseen, calm, dirty work that you need and helps.
He gets stuck in. He's always getting stuck in. Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything, and Chad made a good point. I think that was probably Steven Gerrard's greatest achievement at Aston Villa was getting Boubacar Kamara. Did we get him on a free in the end? I'm pretty sure we got him on a free.
It wasn't free.
But Baptiste, what were the thoughts in France? Because obviously Kamara was an emerging talent, and since he's come to Villa, like I agree, I think there's been no coincidence that at upturn of form has coincided with Kamara's return, because he just sits and he does all the dirty work and allows our other midfielders to mop up and play. What were the thoughts when he was going to Villa? Was it a shock? Like, because I know there's other big clubs interested.
Yeah, I think there was disappointment in a way. First, because he left Marseille on a free, and I tend to go with the player in a way. I mean, you decide your own career, and if you decide to, you give as much to the club as the club gives you in a way. But I think there was disappointment at that end, and I think there was also surprise at that, because people obviously know of Aston Villa in France, but until Emery and maybe even just before that, Villa had been more down and up in a way, and so I think there was surprise on that front. I'm not going to call it from ignorance, but just kind of from a lack of visibility as to what Aston Villa were building. So, and I think you got to take into account the fact that Marseille is France's biggest club, perhaps. And that might be a surprise, but because PSG is so strong. But in terms of people's imagination and historically, although PSG has a wonderful history as well that I think has been a bit overshadowed in a way by the fact they've been taken over by the Qataris. But Marseille, there will forever be the team that won the Champions League, the French team that won the Champions League. They've had wonderful players, iconic kit, very feisty support. If you've ever been to Marseille, it's a hell of a city in many ways. And so I think people were sort of surprised that here's a guy who went through the ranks, played for Marseille, probably one of the biggest clubs in the country, and is joining kind of a mid-table team in the Premier League. There were questions about his ambitions, but I think he's been vindicated, right? Although he'd probably enjoy playing for De Zerbi right now, but he's enjoying it under Emery, and he's doing really well, so I'm very happy for him.
Oh, thank you.
What about Kamara as well? The way he protects the back four, he acts like a shield. It's very important in that double pivot.
Yeah,
the way that we play.
Yeah, he's been, his history is that he started as a centre back. He was always, he was always very, very highly thought of at Marseille as a centre back. Marseille is a notoriously difficult place to come through the ranks in France. They don't have a great infrastructure, and there's a huge amount of popular pressure in that city. And so he started as centre back, and he was very much seen as a supremely technical centre back, but not often willing to do the dirty work. Interestingly,
Wow.
and he moved to
That's
centre mid
interesting.
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, because the feeling was, and I can't recall which manager, that might have been Sampaoli or maybe even before him. The feeling was he's so good on the ball and he's smart, but he doesn't take on the physicality of being a centre back and being, the aerial battles, constantly having to muscle his way through was the thinking. And they changed him to a holding midfielder, and he's just blossomed ever since, because he has all the attributes that you need in that position. So I think having that background kind of helps him, to your point, Chad, of how does a centre back think? How can I come and help my centre back? How do I shield my back three or my back four, depending on your formation? And that just speaks to his kind of tactical smarts and versatility, really.
But with Emery, to be honest, with Boubacar Kamara, he could play as a hybrid centre back.
Hmm.
You can't play there. I know they'll say that they are going to try it out, apparently. That's what I've heard, anyway.
It makes a lot of sense now, because sometimes in games, like if we've sort of pushed forward, he will naturally drop back, and he'll be sometimes the last man back. And now when I think about like a positional sense, that does make a lot of sense in terms of his prior knowledge of being a centre back and stuff. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that. That's a good fact.
Yeah, thank you for the insight, Baptiste.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Watkins. I have to mention about him on Saturday. When he was running everywhere he was, he's always working hard. And there's a few times that he got in between the centre backs. I actually think of that game with the Arsenal without Saliba. They struggle without Saliba. And I think Watkins took advantage of that. That's a good decision making as well. I don't think he's proving why he's leading the line for Aston Villa. Of course, I do like John Duran. But Watkins, his other work shouldn't get unnoticed.
Yeah, it's baffling to me how undervalued I think Ollie Watkins is in general, in people's general perceptions. And I appreciate some people value him very highly, clearly at his club, and he's an England international, so he doesn't have anything to prove. But in a way, it often feels that people keep on being surprised at how good Ollie Watkins is. And I think that the way he plays and his output over the last 3 seasons, he deserves a little bit more recognition, especially because he has a style, as you say, Chad, where he's constantly in movement. He's a poison for any defense, even when he doesn't score or he doesn't. Just the sheer ability to create space, to be a nuisance, to be constantly in movement. He's much harder to mark or to defend against than what you would normally call a traditional number 9. And so, I think it's a great point. He deserves, for me, even when he doesn't score, he rarely has a bad game, in a way, because he makes his presence felt. And there's a reason why John Duran has benefited from that in the past, of sort of coming on as a sub. And because when you've been knackering your defenders for 60, 70 minutes, they've got a little bit less composure, a little bit less time, and people benefit from that. So I think a lot of people would like having Ollie Watkins in their team.
There got a few occasions against Arsenal, he might have got through more. He's always looking for those clever runs, making those clever runs. I like the way as well how he holds up the ball as well. He brings other players in together, linking them up.
Yeah. Sorry, you can go, Baptiste.
No. Sorry, just agreeing.
Yeah, no. I think Ollie Watkins. I mean, as a Villa fan base, we all love him, and if he sort of like you just said then, Baptiste, if he does ever, have a game where he's not scored a goal, there's a good chance that he's got an assist or he's worked his socks off to sort of, there's always some sort of involvement within the goal. I think what I love about Ollie Watkins is, number one, he's just his personality and his attitude. I think he epitomises what Emery wants from a player in our squad. I think you never hear him moan, whinge. You never see him on the headlines of papers, even if he has gone through a barren spell, which it rarely does. But if he does, he just puts his head down, gets on with it, works harder, comes back. What I loved about the game on Saturday, I think Gary Neville mentioned it in comms on Sky, that he felt that he was going to score because he was that active. The first half, Gabriel could not deal with him, and what I noticed was physically, Watkins hasn't always been the biggest, but the last couple of seasons he seems to have bulked up and really filled out. Gabriel, he was brushing Gabriel off him. It was like a couple of years ago that wouldn't have been the case. I think he was a bit more wiry and a bit more easy to sort of relate and push, but Gabriel's a big guy, and I was thinking it's not often you see strikers come up against him and give him a tough time. So as well as the pace, I thought physically he was just pushing Gabriel away as if he wasn't there. And I think, the goal that he scored was just typically Watkins. He
didn't mess around.
Nah, he just took the composure for that sort of volley, and I just think, if he isn't devalued by the fans and England fans, I don't know, but you need to take a look. He's not far off. I think he's is he 4 or 5 goals off our Gabriel Agbonlaho's record.
Yeah, that's it.
I so hope he gets that. I think he will.
I think he will get it. Yeah.
So he's sort of breaking little records here and there. I think he's now hit double figures in the Premier League for 5 seasons in a row now. So it's the consistency is there. So great player.
Sort of the next point then. So obviously, with that result against Arsenal, it really puts us in the mix between the likes of Man City, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Newcastle. They're right up there now. I did see there's a stat. I think this is a chance it could happen. Champions League will come down to the top 5. There's a 97% chance. And I think it's good for English football in general.
How does that work, Chad? Is that because we're doing so well? The English teams are doing
coefficient.
Right, okay. So because the English teams are winning so much, or we're positioned well in the European competitions, we're then more likely to get that 5th place.
It's all with performances.
Okay.
For all the English teams, and how well they do in the Champions League as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's a bit of both. It's they do it over performances. So so I'm going to get it on the screen there. Let's look at the Champions League table. I'll get it up on the screen. Good. Nice. So this is the table there.
Look at that.
So I think surely we get one more win. Already I think we'll get through anyway. But one more win. If we beat Monaco, that puts us in a strong position to automatically get through. So we've got Liverpool first, second Barcelona, we've got third Arsenal, we've got fourth Bayern Leverkusen, we've got fifth the mighty Aston Villa,
hey.
We've got 6th Inter Milan, 7th Brest, we've got 8th Lille, 9th Borussia Dortmund, 10th Bayern Munich, 11th Atletico Madrid, we've got 12th AC Milan, we've got 13th Atalanta, 14th Juventus, 15th Benfica, 16th Monaco, 17th Sporting Lisbon, 18th Feyenoord, we've got 19th Club Brugge, we've got 20th Real Madrid.
Wow.
Which is a real surprise.
Hello.
We've got 21st Celtic, Man City 22nd.
Oh, wow.
So we've got some real big teams that are down there.
Yeah.
Also, you got 23rd PSV. And at the final 24th place, you've got Dinamo Zagreb. So, guys, what do you make of that? Looking at that table.
After you, Baptiste. Go.
So, two things. One is big clubs, traditional big clubs are finding it tough, which is good.
Yeah.
You see Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. I mean, I know they're 10th, Bayern, but PSG, Man City towards the bottom half, right? Not necessarily where you'd expect them to be. So that's a good thing. And then as a follower of Liga, I'm glad to see that you have 3 clubs in the top half, really.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about Monaco. But what Brest are doing
Yeah.
is frankly unbelievable. And the last 2 years they've been having an incredible time, a great time, very enthusiastic. And Lille are quietly becoming a bit of a powerhouse in France. They tend to be top 4, top 5. They're playing really well. Their manager is doing extremely well in European competitions. I think he's the only manager to have beaten Pep Guardiola, something like Pep Guardiola, Carlo Ancelotti, and name basically the 3 or 4 great managers currently around who've been around over the last 10, 15 years, and he's beaten them surprisingly. So I think it shows a healthy a healthy European football really at the moment. And similarly, seeing Aston Villa 5th is also good. It makes people discover clubs again, and that can only be a good thing.
Because mostly there's been a lot of mixed reviews about the new format. But I actually really like it. It gives a lot of the lesser teams a real chance as well. And also, and they're not all the big teams that want extra games. But so a team like Villa, they want to play more games. Especially for the fans. It's good for the fans.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Chad. I mean, just looking at this table, this is the reason why. I mean, I was a bit skeptical at first. As human beings, we're not all big fans of change, are we? And we've had this format for such a long time, and I was a bit like, I don't know, how's it going to pan out? But after seeing obviously Villa be in it and experience it and benefit from it, I think it's incredible. I love it. I think what I love about it as well is that you have these one-off games where, like we had Bayern Munich at Villa Park on a one-off night, and it's like,
Yes.
there's sort of a different energy and momentum builds that I think that, if we had to then play them again at the Allianz Arena, it's sort of like, oh, okay, we've got to go back to Bayern now. They're probably going to beat us, so the mentality is different. But because it's a one-off game, you have these teams that are just really up for it, and they pull off remarkable results. So I think what we're seeing is a really, really good, healthy sort of competition. Barcelona are higher than I didn't realize. They sort of crept there into second, which is interesting. But yeah, great for the French teams, great for Villa. I think hopefully these next couple of games, these teams can continue to pick up points and sort of make the big boys have to battle it out in the knockouts, which would be fun.
It's like going back to last season. If you think about Newcastle, they would have benefited more from these sports.
They had the group of death, didn't they? Or the group of death.
They
had a tough group, yeah. No, it's good. It's good fun.
But let's move on from that there. So, Baptiste, I'll ask you the next question. So, what do you expect for the Monaco game?
I think it'll be a tough game for both sides. I mean, Monaco are going through a bit of a rough patch at the moment in Liga. They started the season on fire. I think they had something like 6 wins and 2 draws in the first 8 games, and they looked like serious contenders to a weakened PSG, as we've seen in Europe, but even in France. And then they've had a bit of a tougher time over the following 10 games. Their defense has been a bit more friable, and old problems have resurfaced. But it's not really based on anything. But I kind of want to say Monaco in Europe have traditionally been a tough a tough competition. I've never really understood why, in a way, because they have a really small fan base. Their stadium often sounds empty. It's a very strange
Is it
place
18,000?
in a way.
It's like 16.
18,000, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, Stade
It's not-
Rideau is
yeah.
around that. It's very small, and it's not even full, and that's because Monaco is kind of its own particular place. It's very small to start with. It's a lot of expats, not a lot of local people, and so football is maybe not the main passion there. I'll let you guess what other passions might be going on in Monaco,
Oh, yeah.
but
The
I think
Grand
they've
Prix.
always yeah. They've always had a real strong affiliation with Europe. They've Champions League finalists. They've always had really good runs in Europe, and I think what you'll find with Monaco is they have quality players, they have young players, and when it all ticks on the day, they're a very, very strong side. Now, with youth and inexperience, also come the flip side, which is
Yeah.
when they're not all on it, then they're a little bit off the mark. But Europe tends to bring I know they've got a checkered record this season, but they went away and they beat they beat Barcelona at home, and that's Barcelona's only defeat. We saw where they're ranking at the moment. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be a tough game for both. It's kind of a game to forget what's going on in the league, and as Aaron said, it's kind of like a one-off and just go for it, which is going to take people's mind off things. And I think there's plenty of exciting players on show that Villa will need to be wary of.
And over the years with Monaco, they've had a lot of big transfers.
Hmm.
They're not one to Man United. Falcao. Do you remember him?
Falcao, yeah. Radamel.
Yeah.
Rather
Well,
than Falcao, yeah.
they had a period where they were owned by I can't remember if they still owned by him, but they were owned by a Russian oligarch, effectively. And when you
Yes.
combine Russian money, as we've seen in the Premier League,
Chelsea,
with
yeah.
tax-free status in Monaco,
Oh, yeah.
then you get players very much willing to come to the sunny south of France, effectively. And so they had a period of buying the likes of James Rodriguez, as you said, and Falcao. That has changed over the last good 5 years, I would say, and they've been more into
Saudi League? The Saudi League and all? Oh, that no.
They're owned by the Saudi League, did you say?
When I was in all the money, that's where all the money is now.
Oh, in the Saudi League, yeah.
Yeah. And they've pivoted more to a buying young players and looking for resale value. So there's a few good gems in there. And also, I just need to point out, Monaco have also traditionally been a
Yes.
real powerhouse in terms of youth development anyway. So like of Mbappe recently have come through the ranks.
Mendy, I know he was a bit bad at City in the end,
Yeah.
but I know there was Mendy, there was Mbappe. I was going to say that they've had I feel like there's been a lot of players that have come through Monaco and that have since gone on. They seem I wouldn't say they're a selling club, but they seem clearly had a good youth system there, and we're sort of grinding out some good players for a while.
And this dates back to, they were one of Arsene Wenger's first main clubs, right? He won, and Thierry Henry and David Trezeguet came through the ranks at Monaco. That's not a bad.
It's incredible
Henry,
you think
a
about
couple
that.
of players. So,
Yes, they got a lot of history. They got a lot of history. Monaco, you think of all that you just spoke about.
Yeah.
But I think the actual game there, it won't be the easiest game. Because your away games are not easy in the Champions League. We're going to have to work hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
After draw against Arsenal. And it'll boost our confidence. Going back to what you said earlier about the Arsenal game. And I don't really watch much of what Monaco do. We have to watch them on the break, I think. But depending on the results, we will secure top 8, I think. And also, in this game, I think, is a chance to see the debut of Daniel Martin.
I've got some
You know-
breaking news on that one.
What's happened?
He can't play. I saw something this morning in the
Registered or
Burnley.
something.
Yeah, he can play he can play in the knockout phases, but during the league phase, because he's already
Shame.
played for Dortmund, he can't be registered. So if he does get registered, it will be in the knockout phase.
Well, we'll see with the West Ham game. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I think Emery against Monaco. He'll get a structured game plan, as he always does at Emery. He's a good tactician. He's pretty done his homework already.
Yeah.
So, Baptiste, I'm going to ask you another question. So, what is the big difference between Liga 1 and the Premier League? As in the gameplay?
Yeah, I'd say pace is probably that. So, I think when I watch Premier League, it's frantic. That's what makes it great to watch. But it's pretty frantic and tactically less astute. I would say you do teams taking bigger risks in English football, and obviously the underlying quality of the players. A lot more players are more established, or perhaps of better quality. So that makes a kind of potent combination of great talent and kind of frantic football, which is incredible spectacle. I think Liga is very tactical, is more risk averse. It's more focused on the development of players as well. It's a stepping stone for many players, and it doesn't have the same. It has a different type of passion in the stands. I think it's just less the main sport in France. It's still the main sport, but I think people are less obsessed with it than in the UK, and that you can kind of feel it, except for some big games and some big clubs. If you ever go to a Marseille PSG game, you will definitely feel a lot of passion in the stands. That is for sure. But so I think it's also more on an equal footing, and you're more likely to see some surprises in Liga. That makes, obviously I'm biased, that makes it for a slightly more interesting league in a way, because there's more of the unexpected, and you get to see the work of clubs across years starting to develop and mature. I feel like in the Premier League more generally, it's very short-termist. And apart from the likes of clubs like Man City, who've dedicated themselves to Guardiola for understandable reasons, Aston Villa doing that with Emery, maybe Liverpool, who have a certain consistency, even with Arne Slot coming in. In France, I think, except when they're in dire danger, I think clubs do generally try and have a bit more stability, except maybe for some big clubs. And that makes it you can see progression at certain clubs, which makes it interesting. But it is less, it is less of a spectacle, I would put it. I would obviously feel great grief at it being called a farmers league, considering I would say that people who might use that term don't necessarily watch it, with all due respect, and also don't appreciate what makes that different to the Premier League. But it's a different type of spectacle, I would say. The intensity is lesser, but I think there's more focus on tactics and in a way, collective ability than some clubs in English football, where you've got a relatively basic game plan and you're relying on one or two players creating magic.
And as well, a lot of the French fans are very passionate about football in general. I had to do a bit of research on this. I don't really watch much of Liga. But I did say that they are fifth ranked in the best leagues in Europe. I think they're fifth behind England's Premier League, Spain's La Liga, Italy's Serie A, and Germany's Bundesliga.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in the top five. I'll tell you an interesting fact. Liga 1 was inaugurated on the 11th of September 1932 under the name Nacional before switching to Division 1 after a year of existence. Then later on then, it became Liga 1 then. But also interesting facts on the internet. So I'm going to move on for that now. So Baptiste, what should Aston Villa's game plan be on Tuesday, tomorrow, against Monaco?
I think it depends on how Monaco set up. They've played 4 at the back. They've played 3 at the back. They've been defensively a bit struggling over the last few weeks. Unai Emery knows way better than I do anything there is about football, so I'm sure he'll find the right plan. But I think it's it's neutralizing. They have various sources of creativity across Monaco. That's what makes them interesting. They've got some really good fullbacks. They've got 2 extremely talented young French players in Magnus Akliouche and Elias Ben Seguir, who people should follow because they're very, very good and very, very bright and and they're brave on the ball. So I think it's going to be a case of nullifying those threats, perhaps being slightly compact to start with, and then I think it's just imprinting, kind of the pace that you want and the physical power that you've got running through the sides is what I probably see Aston Villa trying to do. At that level, I think it's trying to be on the front foot and imposing yourself and imposing the way you want to play. So it'll be really interesting to see how they're going to do that, because Monaco play with their attacking players play with quite a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have, the players I've mentioned, and Minamino, the ex-Liverpool player, when he starts, they tend to have sort of 3 attacking midfielders, and they don't necessarily have traditional
Japanese
wingers.
international? From Japanese,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't.
these are top players.
Japanese international, Minamino.
Yeah. Sorry, Japanese. Yeah. Sorry, my line was breaking. Yeah. And he was great last season. He's been less good so far. So I think it's trying to combat that. There's obviously weaknesses in Monaco. I've mentioned defensively they've struggled. There's a lot of responsibility placed on the shoulders of Denis Zakaria and Lamine Camara in midfield, who are both very good players. And I know Zakaria had a checkered history with Chelsea, but he's been very, very good for Monaco this season. So I think it's probably the usual game plan for Villa. Trust in your team, trust in your ability. Be wary of some really creative players at Monaco, and go as you plan, really.
In Monaco, they got some great young players through the academy that they brought through. All I think the game plan should be, obviously don't concede, soak up the pressure. And I think in this game, our fullbacks are going to be important. We need to get further up the pitch, higher up the pitch, I think. And again, Yuri Tielemans on the ball, he's influential. So we need to it gives us a lot of calmness on the ball, a lot of composure. I think use Morgan Rogers. I'm not a massive fan of Morgan Rogers. He'll use him to carry the ball. And also, who do you think will start tomorrow? Watkins or Duran? I'll go Watkins personally, but
Yeah, I'm gonna say Watkins. I think I agree with you. I think it's been interesting hearing about Liga and how different it is compared to the Premier League. So thank you for that insight, Baptiste. I think if it is a very tactical league, I think Unai Emery is a very tactical manager, so it could be an interesting match tomorrow from that point of view. I always look at Monaco. I think I've been watching the Champions League since I was younger, and Monaco have always been there. So for me, it's like there's a level of respect, I think, for a team that's been so consistently in the Champions League. So as a Villa fan, and when the Champions League draw was done and we had the teams, I was like, oh, Monaco, wow, that's a really good sort of traditional Champions League team. I'm intrigued about the atmosphere. I think, like you said, Chad, I think soaking up the pressure.
Yeah.
When I look at the size of the stadium, and there's no slight on the fans there or anything, Villa obviously used to a 42,000 capacity stadium. The Premier League has, crazy capacity stadiums. So I think in terms of fan atmosphere, I don't know what they're going to generate, Baptiste. I'm not too sure how the fans are. If, an English team coming in, is it going to be sort of rowdy? I don't know. But from that point of view, I was looking at that thinking we might be okay. It was more, I think, I think it's like we were saying earlier, it's a one-off game for both teams to sort of really, I don't want to say get the seasons back on track, but to sort of, like put aside the Premier League for a minute and just sort of go for it. I think from Villa's point of view, if we put all our big hitters on, i.e. Watkins, and we start them and we just try and get the game done, like Chad was saying, I think that then puts us in a great position just to qualify through the league phase. But then equally, Monaco, they're still, I don't know, 4-6 points the next two games. They'll be in and amongst it as well. So it's all to play for.
Did they push this?
No. Then they're not. And I think their young players are going to be a threat, because I think the thing with youth, obviously, they're unpredictable, and I think them seeing a Premier League team come into our patch, let's make a point here. We want to put ourselves on show. So I think it's going to be a tough game. I do think we've got enough. Not being biased. I'm trying to look at it, logically. I do think we've got enough to beat them. However, I think it's a one-off game. I think it's going to be very tricky, personally.
So Baptiste, we spoke about the Monaco Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So as an Aston Villa fan, what Aston Villa fans expect when travelling to Monaco? What will the experience be like?
Take a lot of money.
Yeah. I was make sure you've got a good budget. It's jet set lifestyle is basically what Monaco is. Very rich people there. Tax expats there. So you read into that what you want to read into that. It's not a place that's crazy about football the way that if you go to Marseille, maybe even Lyon, or obviously smaller clubs but historical great clubs in France like Saint-Etienne, people are mad about football. That's not the case at Monaco. The stadium struggles to fill itself, and I think it's a great shout by Aaron in the sense that you'll have a good vocal support. There's a good, much like any club, there's a good stronghold of support in Monaco. They're just not very numerous. They make themselves heard. I think if you're traveling to Monaco, it's probably a very pleasant place to go to. I mean, I've been there once, and it's not necessarily my cup of tea, but it's a very pretty place. Everything you can do everything by foot. It's obviously sunny. It's on the coast. It's very glamorous. I think I can't remember what the stadium is. I've never been to the Louis II, but it's it's a small place in general, Monaco. So I think you can kind of easily have access everywhere. I wouldn't necessarily stay in Monaco. If you can stay a bit longer for a few days, go to some of the cities close by.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be a pleasant atmosphere. It's not going to be going away to certain countries or certain cities where there'll be some there might be some confrontation with fans. I'd be very surprised by that.
Ultras.
Yeah. So it's all in all, probably one of the most pleasant experiences of going abroad in Europe for a Champions League. It's a nice place and it's sunny. What's not to like?
I think it'd be exciting. As Aaron said, expensive experience. I did a bit of research about this. So in Monaco, the average pint of beer costs €8, and a cup of coffee is €4.
That's not terrible. I mean, I'm in New York, so I
Yeah.
thought the coffee would be more expensive than that. So my perception's a bit skewed, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a £7 pint. I'm in London. It's a £7 pint.
Yeah.
So the exchange rate, it doesn't. It's still still way more onerous than I would like it to be, but it doesn't shock me. It's probably a bit cheaper outside London. I appreciate that.
Well, apart from if you go to casinos,
Yeah.
there's different kind of fish there.
Yeah.
Well, when I've been to Monaco, I've been there 12 years ago.
Ah,
I went
Nice.
on a cruise around the Mediterranean.
yeah.
It's got a nice marina there. Got
Yeah.
a nice port. And as they say, is the European equivalent to Las Vegas. It's the Formula One, the F1 capital of the world. The Grand Prix is always there.
Mm.
And also James Bond. The film Never Say Never with Sean Connery.
Mm.
That was filmed there as well.
Great film.
And GoldenEye.
Yeah,
Goldeneye.
and going
I
on
think
that.
the start is in Monaco. Yeah.
Yes, it's got a lot of history there. And you get the weather because it's in the Mediterranean.
Mm.
So it's always nice and warm there.
Mm.
So, Baptiste, I'm intrigued to hear about this. But you're the manager of Monaco, Andy Hooter. What is he like? What are your thoughts on him?
He was a bit of a surprise when he was appointed. I mean, Monaco had a run of managers. You know, they're not always the most stable club, although they tend to be successful. I think he's brought in a bit of serenity to the club. He's kind of got a plan. He's very level-headed. He kind of goes along with the flow of what the club's strategy is, which obviously helps him. But he's been tactically quite astute. He's changed his systems. He's played 4 at the back. He's played 3 at the back. He's tried to make the best out of his wing backs. For example, Caio Henrique is a very good left wing back. Wilfred Singo is another one that people should look out for as a centre back or as a full back. And I think he's brought in. I know recently that hasn't necessarily been the case, but he's brought in a bit more structure. I think at Monaco, it felt before that the talent was there, but they were kind of leaking goals. It was all a bit discombobulated. You kind of get the feel when you watch them that players know what they're meant to be doing. They don't always deliver, but there's a structure, there's a plan in place, and he wants his creative players to express themselves, which is always fun to watch. And he gives a chance to youth clearly. So I think if I were Hutter, again, he knows much better than I do what to do, but I would just say trust the spine of your team. And they have a really strong spine. If I look at, if you go just from centre back to striker, you've got Thilo Kerrer, Singo in defense, Lamine Camara and Zakaria, Ben Seguir and Akliouche attacking midfielders, and you'll probably have maybe Biret or Embolo up top, and that's a pretty strong spine. Some good players, some good smart players there.
Well, with Monaco, Andy Hooter since 2023, and I read on him as well. As a coach, he won the Austrian treble.
Yeah.
With Red Bull Salzburg. And as a coach, he won the Swiss Super League with young boys as well. And I think I did say as well, he was quite a good player. back in his day, he reached the UEFA Cup final in 1994. So he has got an interesting career.
Hmm. Was he the coach of
So,
Frankfurt as well?
yeah, was it Eintracht Frankfurt? Yeah.
I think he was there. I know he spent a bit of time in Germany, didn't he?
Oh.
That was where he sort of like made his name. So I think
Mm.
Monaco was the first like pop
Yeah.
young boy, coming out and into the French league and stuff. So yeah, impressive. He's not going to be a pushover, that's for sure.
So Baptiste, I'm going towards the end of the show. So we've got one last point. So what are Monaco's weaknesses?
Sorry,
Do
my
you have
line.
any?
Sorry,
What are
Chad.
their
My line.
strengths and
My line broke a bit.
strengths and weaknesses? Yeah, what are their strengths and weaknesses?
Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. So weaknesses, I would say, I've mentioned the defense, which is struggling a bit at the moment. Their goalkeeping situation hasn't been brilliant. They signed Philip Kearns, I think, last year or 2 years ago. He had a terrible first season. He was replaced by Majewski, the Polish goalkeeper, and they've been struggling to figure out which one they want between the sticks. That's never a good sign, I think. And they don't have an out-and-out goal scorer. I like Mbolo. I think and normally I would like Balogun, but he's injured. Although he's been disappointing at Monaco, and they've just bought Biret from Sturm Graz, but they're struggling to find really. I mean, Mbolo leads the line really well, but he's not an out-and-out goal scorer. In terms of strength, I've mentioned the spine of that side, that midfield duo in the center of Kamara and Zakaria is really strong, both technically. I mean, Zakaria has magic in his feet to get out of tight situations sometimes.
Good at Chelsea.
But also physically, they're a strong presence. And I know I keep harping on about them, but really, if they play Ben Seguir and Akliouche, I really, really recommend that people watch them. They're really a delight with the ball at their feet. They have an eye for a goal. Akliouche is a really gifted left footer, kind of more as the number 10s. Ben Seguir can kind of drift across everywhere. And they're Akliouche 22, Ben Seguir is 19. They're the future for Monaco, and I think people will look to snap them up.
And they're given the freedom. So they're given the freedom of the part. They're the ones that just sort of run anywhere.
Yeah, I think I think they are. I think that also comes with responsibilities, and they've been. I think Ben Seguir more than Akliouche, because Akliouche has a bit more experience now. But they've been told a few times you need to focus on both sides of the pitch, and you've got responsibilities. But I think Monaco are so dedicated to youth development for their own business model and for their because that's their strategy anyway. They believe in youth, that they're allowed to play through their growing pains, and that's what makes Monaco exciting to watch. And really, I think technically, really, I can't emphasize just they're a delight, those two, and I'm really hoping they play because I'm not trying to give them a commentator's curse or anything, but I think a few people will open their eyes up to the talent coming through Monaco once again.
Well, thank you. The great information. Really
good.
interesting insight. So, both of you, what are your score predictions?
Oh, this bit. I don't like this bit. I always try and be positive. I mean, my heart of hearts is telling me it could be a draw. I mean, it sounds like it might be a bit of a battle of the midfield, to be honest. But then hearing that they haven't got an out-and-out goal scorer, we do. I'm going to say 2-1 to the Villa. There you go.
That's positive.
Yeah.
What about you, Baptiste?
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning in between a draw and a short Villa win, but I don't feel 100% confident about calling a Monaco win, but I would just say I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Let's put it that way. So I probably lean more towards a score draw. So 1-1 sounds 2-2 probably. I kind of feel like 2-2 sounds right.
I'm going to go with a 1-0 away win. I think it'd be scrappy. I think we'll get the job done. So, Baptiste, if anybody wants to find you, where can they find you at the podcast?
Yeah, thanks, Chad. We're we're on Spotify. We're on all the platforms. It's Le Classique, nice and easy name, and obviously you can interact with us on X, as it's now called, for the last few years, at Le Classique Pod, and we're always very delighted to engage with people who want to know a bit more about French football. We're passionate about it, not just now, but also about the French football culture. We appreciate it's different from English football culture, but that's what makes it fun. And always happy to talk French football with everyone.
Well, I've really enjoyed this episode. Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this podcast, remember to make sure to subscribe. Make sure to smash the like button and give it a share. Make sure to leave us a good review on our audio platforms, including Spotify and Apple. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much, Aaron and Baptiste, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to wrap up this episode with Villa forever and up the Villa.